It's Load the Box. It's day late, dollar short. It's Jordan. It's Will. It's January 9th. The regular season has come to a close. It feels like it just started, Jordan. We were talking before the show that the Vikings started the season with a 16-point win at home over Green Bay. We will talk about them a whole lot more in a bit. And they finished the season with a 16-point win over lackluster Chicago on the road, finishing with their second 13-win season in 6 seasons. The last time in which they won 13 games, where did they go, Jordan?
The NFC Championship game.
They did go to the NFC Championship game in 2017. We all know that it did not end very well, um, but nonetheless, it was probably the most successful Viking season in recent memory. Jordan, I know you want to talk Packers today. I know we want to dish out a little bit of the steam they threw at us last week, deservedly so. But any thoughts, on this season finale? Anything you saw that surprised you, or anything that gave you chills with O'Connell leaving the starters in too long, or anything like that? Or was it sort of just as it was for me, kind of a boring Sunday afternoon game?
We're gonna have to name this segment and get a little graphic and all that kind of stuff for it because we need to have like a just Jordan exposes Will's text messages segment. Well, I literally just make content by reading your texts, and I'm gonna be honest, I'm not gonna find it. You sent me a text saying that you could like strangle Kevin O'Connell or something along those lines. Because somebody got dinged up or something like that. And I said the same thing about Dalvin Cook. I was terrified. The entire first half, I watched Justin Jefferson on every play. And if he didn't get out of a route cleanly, I was like, oh, that one is knee. Like, I was like, I was so anxious. It wasn't healthy for me. It wasn't healthy for my wife who had to watch the game with me. It was just bad, and I'm glad we benched him in the second half. I saw Nick Mullins come into the game. I got very excited. I got very happy. Got a little nervous when Nathan Peterman got benched. I can't even remember who they benched him for at this point.
Tim Boyle.
Thank you. I was going to say, I think he played for Detroit and Green Bay, so I guess Tim Boyle destined to be a Viking soon. But when Tim Boyle came in, I was like, oh, shoot, we might lose this game because Nathan Peterman isn't playing, and I don't know. My overall thoughts on the game, glad we got out of it healthy. Had a heart attack when Dalvin Cook went down. Really happy to hear he just kind of took an awkward cleat to the leg. He's going to be fine, is what Kevin O'Connell said. He said he'll be a full participant this entire week. So, really, if I'm being honest, I just kind of want to talk about, the Packers DVOA and how that affects their draft standing. And I really want to Peter Bukowski, and at this point I'm trying to just get blocked on Twitter. I'm trying to not be obnoxious, like obnoxiously obnoxious, but I am trying to throw as much shade his way as possible, as he is the Vikings DVOA is not good, so they stink. And the Packers are actually a really good football team because their DVOA is good. And so I'm trying to throw as much shade his way until eventually I do get the block button, because that is the ultimate. Yeah, the second it happens, there's a banner that's going up right here that says, like, blocked by Peter Bukowski. He doesn't know we exist. That's okay. One day he will, because we're gaining steam, just like the Minnesota Vikings. And I think that the Vikings and the Lions should have the NFL's attention as teams that I think are here to stick around for a while, but we can talk about the Lions more in the off-season episodes.
Yeah, I mean, to that point, I think the Lions, I honestly, I mean, I'm not like a Lions fan by any means, but of all the teams in the division, they're the least bad. I think partly because of just the lovable losers nature, and you hate losing to them because of how poorly they've played for the last 20 years. But at the same time, you also have to respect what they've been able to do and turn around. And I mean, really the last 12 weeks, it's pretty remarkable. You start 1-6, and then you end the season almost with a chance for a win and in situation if Baker Mayfield doesn't lose it in overtime to the Seattle Fighting Seahawks. But it's I mean, it's a strange sort of season. It was kind of a strange game to watch, one in which it was like, well, even if we win, it might not mean anything. Um, I was, yeah, like you said, I was about to strangle Kevin O'Connell for leaving the starters in for too long. I mean, I mentioned on Monday, don't even play Dalvin Cook, or maybe not Monday, it was last Wednesday. Give him one snap so that he gets it on his, football card that he played 17 games in a season. Heck, have it be on, special teams so Greg Joseph can just kick it out of the back of the end zone. I don't care. But don't make him get tackled. This is a guy that has missed games after games, season after season for various injuries. And when he tumbled to the ground after that awkward hit, I think all of Minnesota held their collective breath for a minute. Anyway, we got out of there mostly unscathed. Chandon Sullivan had a little bit of a nicked up knee, I believe, but he'll be fine. So all that being said, a win is great. You get your 13th win of the season. Unbelievable first season for Kevin O'Connell. We'll talk a lot more about him maybe later in the show, but really the only takeaway I had from the game yesterday is Justin Jefferson's hair, man. It's
electric.
He's I think he's channeling a little bit of the Randy Moss of 2004. Everybody remembers it, the moon game at Lambeau Field. He flung off the helmet and he's got this, massive afro. And now Jefferson's hair is more, long and stringy and puffs out at the bottom. But when it puffed out of the helmet, it looked very similar to how Randy Moss's helmet looked, or how Randy Moss's hair looked in 2004. And I thought it was funny. I didn't know if he's, maybe going for that look or not, but I liked it. I thought it was a fun, good look.
Made him really easy to identify on the field when he was out there. Like, it was like typically Jefferson is very easy to identify because it's him or TJ Hawkinson catching the ball, and so he's not the giant white guy. But I did think it was pretty unique seeing that afro as I drop my little fidget toy that I play with during the show. Seeing that afro sticking out the back of the helmet, it was definitely electric. I hope he keeps it for the playoffs. I think that's a good look. I agree with you. I like that. I also want to let you know, I don't think I told you this over text. I stole that let Dalvin Cook take one snap and then get him out of the game take. My wife doesn't always watch the show. Like, she will, but she doesn't listen to it. 'Cause she doesn't care that much. And I said that as soon as Dalvin ran the ball the first time. I said, okay, now get him out of the game. Now he can say he played all 17 games and we can get him out and, keep him healthy and everything. And she said that was pretty smart. So I will maintain that was my take in my household. But, of course, the great people, the great fans of Load the Box will know that that's just a bold-faced lie. I do want to talk about I had this, and I text you sometimes because I come up with like a take or I come up with like an idea that I want to get on the show, and I don't know how to do it organically throughout like the context of what we usually do here on Load the Box. So I wanted to talk about let's do like one overarching take to describe this season before, if we win the Super Bowl, we're going to look at this season with like far too many rose-colored glasses of we're going to, you know what I mean? Like, far too favorably. Yeah. If we lose in the playoffs, everyone's going to have a bad taste in their mouth and we're going to be more critical than we probably should be. So I figured we played 17 games. Let's talk about what we thought about this team and Kevin O'Connell in this season and everything. And the reason being is because the take that I've come up with is the Vikings, they play like an aging boxer, in that they've lost the ability to knock you out. They just won't do it. They have 2 16-point wins on the season. Everything else was a one-possession game. They can't knock you out, but they have such a knowledge of the game of boxing that they don't usually get knocked out. Now, occasionally they face somebody and they catch them with a right hook early and it's, oh boy, that was over quickly. But the Vikings this season seemed like a savvy veteran boxer that just they knew when to duck and when to weave. They knew when to counter hook. They knew when to do all of the boxing things. And that's what led them to 13 wins. And I really just I think you can win that way in the playoffs. But I also think the playoffs are when people start bringing out their biggest Mike Tyson-esque uppercuts. And I'm worried that we're going to get beat 41-0, a la 2002 or whenever it was, against the Giants on Sunday, because, like, that's kind of been the Vikings mantra. So that's my takeaway is, like, I like what we saw out of this team. I like what we saw out of the coaching staff. I expect next year to be Kirk's last season with the team, bowing a Super Bowl victory. And I expect a lot of changes to be made, and that includes mostly on the defensive side of the ball. But overall, I think that there was a lot to look forward to, and I think that this was a very, very solid foundation. Honestly, in a year where this might have been the last season the Packers have Aaron Rodgers, Chicago is picking with number 1, so they're in rebuilding mode. Those don't always work, by the way. You don't always, just because you have the number 1 pick does not mean you are destined to become a dynasty. That means that you were very bad, and now you have to rebuild. Yep. And if you don't do it correctly, you can still be very bad. Detroit, they are obviously going to be a threat moving forward, but I think the Vikings are right there and have every opportunity to grab this ring to, really be in the conversation every year for a little while. What are your takes on the season, kind of just overall where you at?
Yeah, I like this idea that you came up with today of kind of looking at the season, because it's not over, but we have very much, this is the end of a chapter. If you will, this is the end of chapter 2. There was the preseason training camp. Chapter 2 is the regular season, and then chapter 3 is the postseason. So I think this is a good sort of breaking point to do this. First and foremost, the season's a success. I think we need to acknowledge that, and we all know that Vikings fans will hyperbole on Twitter and everywhere else if we lose on Sunday, or even if we lose the following Sunday. There's going to be freak out. There's going to be trade Kirk. There's going to be all sorts of things that people will overreact about. But I think first and foremost, we need to acknowledge that it's been a successful season. Would you agree with that? Just kind of general sentiment?
Yeah, absolutely. I've said all season long, we're playing with house money. Teams that get new GMs and new head coaches in the same season don't do this. They don't win 13 games. There's a reason Kevin O'Connell is on a not very long list of people that have won 13 games. He's up there with John Harbaugh and I'm trying to think of the names. I looked it up because I thought 13 was the record. It's not. It's 14. But he put his name in the record books for rookie head coaches, and that's not normal. So a playoff win is just gravy on top of everything that's happened. A Super Bowl win would be unexpected, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and you look at the Super Bowl odds. We have lower Super Bowl odds than the Chargers today, which I'm not sure how I feel about that. It's maybe a topic for another day. But I think how I'd like to sort of sum up this season is it was sort of a 400 level class for Kevin O'Connell and Kwesi Adofo-Mensah in running an NFL franchise. In that these are two very smart men. They passed the class, but they didn't pass with flying colors. Now, the final exam has the ability to get them to a higher grade, i.e. the playoffs. But up until now, they have definitely passed the class. And starting with O'Connell, the 11 one-score wins, the resilience that his team has built, the culture, the mindset, the enthusiasm, the team cohesion. You can tell the state and the fan base is more behind the team this year than it has been in years past. You can tell there's a different buzz about the team, not only for this season, but moving forward. And if you're able to go win the NFC North by 4 games in your first season as a rookie head coach, I don't care what your point differential was. I don't care what your DVOA was. I don't care what all those advanced metrics were. If you can go win 13 games in the NFL, and win a division and have a guaranteed first round home playoff game, that's a successful season for any rookie head coach, any head coach really.
Yeah.
I mean, the Chiefs, I think everyone agrees, are better than the Vikings. The Chiefs lost to the Colts, and the Chiefs only had 14 wins. So there's, in order to be successful in this league, a lot has to go right for you. And Kevin O'Connell helped lead a team in a direction where a lot of things went right. And on Kwesi's side of the coin, I think one more thing on O'Connell, because we have to acknowledge he learned a lot how to win close games. He learned a lot what it means to be situational master. He brought a lot of that from his time in LA. He brought a lot of this, resiliency and all that. But he also could not figure out how to get off the mat in certain games when they just got punched in the mouth 3-4 times in the first half.
Absolutely.
That's something that he's going to have to learn from, because moving forward, there are going to be many a time where you go up against a potentially superior opponent and they're on their A game and you are not. And you have to be able to make that a competitive game. And I have every belief that the Vikings will make their playoff games competitive. There's not going to be any sleeping at the wheel, any sort of, sitting back and hoping for things to happen like that might have, gone on in the Dallas and Green Bay games. And they're not going to be maybe playing scared like they were in Philadelphia. But moving forward into next season, he's got to be able to get his team to play at a higher level when they don't have their A game, and they got to be able to play at a more tough level in some of those games. Yeah. It's an impossible team to figure out, right? Because they get blown out 3-4 times, but they come back from double-digit deficits 3-4 times. So there's not really a common thread there. But
I want to jump in on because I like what you said. I disagree with your take, like the original piece of it. Well, you said like maybe they didn't pass with flying colors. I think they did, because like even if they lose on Sunday to the Giants, as long as they don't get like legitimately blown out at any point during the playoffs, if they lose on a walk-off field goal at any point during these playoffs, they did it. Like this is better than where they were with Mike Zimmer. The roster is different, but like not that different. I'm excited to see what Kwesi's going to do. I think that, you brought up that they, it was like a 400 level class and they're about to take the final. I think they're sitting at an A, and they could just say, I'm not taking the final. I'm just going to finish with a B, like a B minus. And I'm going to start my summer break a little early. I'm going to, go work on the golf game and things of that nature. I really like, I'm not tooting my own horn, but I love that idea of like house money, where it is literally this season was not supposed to be anything. It was supposed to be, let's evaluate Coke. Let's see, let's just see where this team is kind of at with an offensive coach. And then maybe maybe we're going to have to draft a quarterback in the offseason, and we're going to have to bring in some new defensive backs, and we're going to have to, we're going to have to retool in certain areas. And that's not the case. Like I'm really sitting here thinking like, yeah, the offense is fine going into next season. We could use a new DC and some new players on the defensive side, but like, I don't know, man. I want to shift it, and I'm not going to be able to talk about the Packers nearly as much as I want to, and that's okay. This is a Vikings show. Let me just get one more dig in. Ask any Packers fan right now with a gun. Oh, no, that was almost violent. I almost said with a gun to their head, and that's too much. Put a lie detector test on them and say, would you rather have the Packers DVOA stats or the Packers advanced metrics? Oh, would you rather have the Vikings record and just their season? And every Packers fan will tell you they would rather have the playoff berth and the 13 wins over all the advanced metrics. Now that that's out of the way, it is time that we give the respect to Duke Shelley that he deserves. That man is playing out of his mind. I think I've said this like 3 times this year, so it doesn't really mean anything. But I think I said last week that like it would be a great week for him to get his first interception in the league. He did that finally against his former team, planted the ball at the middle of the Chicago logo. Really nice moment for him. That's been like the highlight of the defensive season for me, is that like I legitimately think the Vikings have something in Duke Shelley going into next season. And I'm incredibly hyped about it because he is just not your prototypical corner. And I love guys like that. Like he's too small. He's not good enough. Screw you. I'm going to go out here and I'm going to play like one of the best defensive backs in the league, through the 5 or 6 games that I stout this season. I mean, his name is up there with guys like Sauce Gardner and the like in terms of like the PFF grades. So I'm going to pass it back to you. You can talk about whatever you want to talk about. I just wanted to give heavy flowers to Duke Shelley for what he's been able to do this season.
I think it's important to do that. And also kudos to you for giving Duke Shelley your game ball last week, because he actually did get a game ball on Sunday. And he actually did have that interception that you predicted. So well done to you.
Love him. I love him so much.
It's yeah, I mean, to that point about, the defense, and just maybe wrapping up a couple things on the Vikings and their season and everything. I think when you speak about the defense, I think Kevin O'Connell, but especially Kwesi, has a lot of number crunching and researching to do this offseason, starting now, about what we can do to get the defense to improve. I think a new defensive coordinator has to be looked at. I think defensive pieces are going to have to be added and subtracted. I think you're going to have to see guys potentially like Eric Kendricks, Jordan Hicks. I'm not sure where Harrison Smith's contract is at, but I think he might have to be at the end of the rope here. He still played really well this season, so he probably
played
shouldn't
incredible,
be in the
but they
chopping
drafted
block,
his replacement. I mean, they drafted Lewis Cine, and then they straight up said, like, yeah, Lewis Cine is Harrison Smith's replacement. That's why he's not getting the snaps when oh no, maybe he was, I don't remember what they said. It's been 18 long weeks of a season. But like Lewis Cine is Harrison Smith's replacement when he comes back healthy. So like, I don't know that he's back next year either.
Yeah, and I mean, you could go down the line. Patrick Peterson had a good season. I mean, some would say a great season, Pro Bowl snub, but he's getting old, and any more time on that body is going to make him just another step slower. And there's going to have to be some reckoning when it comes to the defense, because how it is currently constructed is just not going to work. And you want to keep some playmakers. You'd like to keep Hunter. You'd like to keep Zadarius Smith if you can for cheap. All those different things. But how it's currently constructed, I think, is not going to work. And that's, frankly, it's good in that we had such a good season, and yet Kwesi got to learn a lot about the flaws of his defense in the process. I mean, you have like the 31st ranked defense and you win 13 games. That's a luxury. The other just couple things that you learned about this team on the offensive side of the ball, Christian Darrisaw is very good and he's going to be here for a long time, and don't let that guy go anywhere. The other thing, you got to get some help for Justin Jefferson on the outside. KJ Osborne has had a good, last third of the season here, maybe last fourth of the season. He's really turned it up a notch, and we'll see what he can do in the playoffs. It'd be huge to get a burst from him. But Adam Thielen is on the 17th hole, and maybe Jalen Naylor steps up in the offseason into next season, but you got to at least look at bringing in maybe a wide receiver 2 caliber to be the second fiddle to Jefferson. I wouldn't hate it.
Just throwing it out there. It's all over Twitter right now because he said, he doesn't know, if he's going to be back with Green Bay, blah, blah, blah. And now all the Vikings fans are like, hey, we take some Allen Lazard to be our second wide receiver. So I'm just saying. Yeah. So DeAndre Hopkins might be on the market. Let's get nuts.
As long as he's not taking any performance enhancing drugs, and he's not suspended for half the season, he'd be an interesting one to take a flyer on.
I'm going to be honest. I would take DeAndre Hopkins for half a season. I would take it. Like, I honestly think that is worth it. But I do think that was something that I wanted to bring up, and we don't have the time to get into all of that stuff. This is all stuff that you're going to be able to catch whenever we talk about, like, the offseason and stuff after the season ends. Yeah. But unfortunately for the league, the Vikings are very much still alive at this moment. Wednesday night, we will be doing a show talking about the New York Football Giants coming to US Bank Stadium, saying that we're not loud, by the way. which seems like a foolish thing to say
Shame.
before a playoff game. But I don't know. I said it was foolish for Jair Alexander to say stuff, and then they put 16 people on him in the game. So, and happened to shut him down. So I don't know. Maybe I don't know anything, but I'm trying to think of. Let me pass it off to you because you kicked us off, so I'll get us out. So I'm going to pass it off to you really quickly for final thoughts, and then I'll give mine, and we'll get out of here and talk to everybody on Wednesday for a playoff game.
Sweet. Yeah, it's exciting. It's the first Vikings home playoff game since the Minneapolis Miracle. So if you are going to the game on Sunday at 3:30 p.m. Central Time, wear your purple, wear your white, but most importantly, be very loud.
Yep.
And make sure the Giants and their loudmouth offensive lineman, can't remember his name, sir, but leave the disrespectful words at home, and bring your noisemakers, bring your loud voice, because it's going to be rocking. The last time the Vikings played the Giants, I think everyone remembers, was just a couple weeks ago, Christmas Eve. Greg Joseph, 61-yard field goal to walk it off. It's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it. I think, like you said, Jordan, win or lose, the season's been a success. So let's go play with some of this house money and see what we can do.
Yeah, I love it. That was the wonderful Will Goodwin. Follow him on Twitter at WillBadLose, the best Twitter handle in the entire game. Check out the Bad Loser blog as well, and then also while you're poking around on the internet reading about sports, check out VikingsTerritory.com for all your Vikings takes. Check out Unified Athletic Wear for any of your uniforms that you might be needing, and then also follow the show at LTB Vikings. Okay, I'm done. Yeah, like Will said, if you're going to the game on Sunday, make sure to be loud, make sure to be raucous. Don't let Daniel, make them bound timeouts, make them take delay of games. Like, I think that's such an important, that's why you want the home field advantage in the playoffs. Is that way your fans can have an impact on the game, and they don't have to sit at home and get frustrated whenever your team is the team that jumps off sides or doesn't get the snap count or gets a delay of game, whatever the case is. So be loud. Also, make sure, like I've said, I think twice now, Wednesday we will be live on the Load the Box YouTube channel. Just make sure to check it out. We're going to be talking about that Giants game and everything that it will entail. It's going to be a lot of fun. I think it'll only be the second time in Load the Box history that we will get to talk about playoff football. So this is fun. We're having a good time, and none of us are anxious at all. But legitimately, it's gonna be fun. Make sure to tune in for the breakdown and the matchups, and see if anything changes from the last time we played them, because it is a unique situation having to play a team that you just played 2 or 3 weeks ago. Now having them come back to your stadium to do it all over again. So tune in on Wednesday night. I've been Jordan Hawthorne. He's been Will Goodwin. Skol, y'all.